place is Switzerland. The time, early spring, 1978. An unusual team of people makes its way to a secret rendezvous. Their goal, a tiny mountain village named Schmidt-Rutti. Head of the team is Lee Elders. Based in Phoenix, Arizona, he runs a company called Intercept that deals in industrial counter-espionage. Britt Elders, his wife and partner in Intercept, specializes in electronics. The third member of the team, also a partner and longtime associate, is Tom Welsh. They were brought here by Wendell Stevens, retired Air Force colonel and for over 20 years one of the world's leading UFO investigators. Their mission? To check out one of the most remarkable UFO cases ever reported. One that has been called alternately too good to be true, the hoax of the century, or the start of a new age for humankind.
Steve, how long has this case been going on?
Since 1975.
How many sightings or experiences has this man had?
Well, he's had over 30 that I've heard of so far.
What makes the case so special in your mind? Why bring us all the way up here from Arizona?
Man, up to now we've been dealing with just the tip of the iceberg. There's a mountain of evidence here. There's other witnesses, there's lots of photographs, there's recorded sounds, there's landing tracks, a lot of things in this case. Bigger than any case I ever saw before.
How far are we from Zurich?
About 35 miles, 35 kilometers, I think.
Man, I've never seen so many switchbacks in my life. This is remote.
Stevens leads them over a circuitous route, winding through back roads and stopping often along the way.
Why all the precautions?
Well, I didn't want to tell you this before, but this man's been shot at.
Shot at?
Yeah, somebody's trying to kill him.
Why?
I don't know. There's some people are spooked by this whole thing, and he's being threatened.
That's terrible.
Thus begins what was to become a 5-year investigation. Before it is over, they will be embroiled in controversy and forced to use every resource at their command.
Hi, Billy. Yeah, I brought my friend's been telling you about. This is Britt Elders.
Hi, good to meet you.
Lee Elders.
His name is Edward Meyer. He is called Billy, an old nickname that sprang from his fondness for heroes of the American West. Buffalo Bill, Wild Bill, and Billy the Kid. He is a farmer. He claims he has been in contact with beings from another world.
Thank you.
He also claims to have proof of these contacts.
Mr. Meyer, when did the experiences begin?
The contact begins on January 28, 1975 in Hinwil.
Mm-hmm. How did it happen? What made you go outside into the forest?
I got something like a very nice voice in my head. I heard something to leave the house, to go out and to take a photo camera with me. So I left my house, and then when I was far upsides from the village, I heard a singing noise in the sky, and when I was looking up there, I have seen a disc. This disc was flying over the clouds, and then it came to the point where I was staying with my motorcycle. Then slowly it came lower and lower and set it down between the white trees and the forest there behind.
Meyer later photographs the impressions left by the disc's tripod landing gear. The grass has been pressed and swirled in a counterclockwise direction. Even a year later, the grass has not sprung back, but Meyer notes that the impressions swarm with insect life.
Then I have seen a person who came out of the disc.
Person came out?
Yeah. And when the person came out of the left side of the trees there, I have seen that it is a woman.
Mr. Meyer, what did they look like?
She looks like a human from this earth. Like you, like I, like human beings from this earth.
You call us extraterrestrials, and you attribute to us superhuman powers. But we are like you. We too are still far removed from perfection and must evolve constantly, just like yourselves.
After the first words, we turned and was going to the tree here.
You walked over here?
Yeah.
How tall was she, Billy?
It's about 1 meter and 70 centimeter.
About like that?
So a little bit about like my size.
Ah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sits chest here and I here. Sit down.
Ah. Then you sat here and talked to her?
Yeah. Then we was talking here for about 1 hour or 1 hour and a quarter, something like that.
Did she give you a name? What did you call her?
Yeah, she told me her name is Semyase.
Semyase.
Yeah.
Billy, what kind of feeling did you have sitting here under this tree with a woman who just landed in a spacecraft?
I wasn't afraid about these things. I was afraid about the army only, because they have a station somewhere there behind the forest. But I wasn't afraid about the disc.
Where do they come from, Mr. Meyer?
They shall be coming from the star picture of the Pleiades.
The Pleiades, a bright star cluster some 500 light years from Earth. Although the cluster consists of hundreds of stars, 7 stand out clearly to the naked eye. The Greeks call them the nymphs of heaven. We call them the 7 sisters.
What was going through your mind? What did you want to talk about?
You see, my head was full of questions, but the most of the time she was telling me, and I hadn't many chances to ask her something.
Several times we have tried to establish contact with the humans, but usually those selected were not willing. They were afraid others would consider them liars, or mad, or would try to destroy them.
You see, the first she told me I shall get the most best pictures of UFOs, what's ever happened on Earth. And the second thing, I shall go out to tell the truth to the human on Earth, why they are coming to here, what reason they have, that they are coming to Earth not to harm us, not to make war, not to bring peace, just to bring a teaching.
Why are they interested in us, a society thousands of years behind them in technological development? According to Meier, we share common ancestors. Their forefathers were our forefathers. We are, in a sense.
This is the place, Bergerumlikon, where I took that picture.
Show us how you took the picture, Billy.
Oh,
Meier takes the team to other contact sites and demonstrates how he operates his cameras.
I have here a small wheel to turn the film, and I can get the picture.
Where was the ship exactly when you took it that day?
You see, there is standing Wendell.
Yes.
It was about that place.
Hovering above Wendell to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You see, on this way I put on my camera.
We're taking movies, right?
With a film camera on a tripod, Meier can shoot stills with his 35mm camera at the same time.
And then I can start to film. Here I got the movie when was the ship hanging there up, and when it after was jumping by side.
Jumped?
Yes, jumped. It jumped away nearly so fast than the speed of light.
By jumping, Meier means the ship disappears and reappears.
Each time I got electrical hit when the ship was jumping, and at later time they told me there shall be a very strong power field electrical power field, and from that out I always got the electrical hit.
By electrical hit, Meier means an electric shock. He also noted a light shift at each event.
Billy, how many sightings have you had here?
On this place I had one...
Meier takes the investigators to over a dozen sites, describing the craft, which he calls beam ships, and relating the information he says the Pleiadians gave him.
Are there any other groups coming here, Billy?
How they told me there are each year about 22, 23 different civilizations. They comes to here to work here, study here, visit here. And other thing, there are, together with the Pleiadians, working here on Earth about 8 other groups, but they not belongs directly to the Pleiadian civilizations.
But they work together with the Pleiadians.
They work together with the Pleiadians.
So there's an association of some kind between the Pleiadians and some others that are also...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, how long have they been coming here?
For the past 13,500 years about.
13,000?
Yeah. And here we are on the place now where I got the movie picture. You see here, you see there the road, and on the middle of the distance to the road was the ship hanging in the air and bubbling in a very strong wind. And in the background on the road was driving cars from Teilingen to Rumlikon and from Rumlikon to Teilingen. But if somebody have seen something about the ship out of the cars, I don't know.
You didn't hear anything after that?
No, nothing. No.
But there are other witnesses to some of the sightings. Ernst Keller-Müller lives down the mountain from the Meier farm.
And what did you see from here, sir?
Wat hebben ze gezien? Ik had twee gesichtet. We saw the lights and then they disappeared and then they came on again. That's why he noticed it.
And then what happened?
Wat is nog aan passiert?
Dann hat sich das, was abgeleuchtet hat, sich dann leicht abgesenkt, ein Stück weit.
The one that had the light going below also went down.
Went down to the ground?
Not all the way to the ground, but the other ones stayed in the same place and this one went further down.
Isn't that the direction of Schmid-Ruti over there?
Yes, that's the direction of Schmid-Ruti.
Have you ever heard of anything going on over there in the Schmid-Ruti area?
A couple of days later he called Schmid-Ruti to find out.
Did you know Mr. Meier at that time?
Nein.
And then behind us the forest, it was a little light.
Bernadette Brandt, a computer programmer.
So? And it jumps like a ball.
Like it bounced?
Like a ball. It goes up and down and up and down.
Did it get bigger?
When it goes up, no, the same greenness. When it goes up, it was white, and when it goes down, it was red.
The nearest thing to a government official in the area is the postman in the village of Schmid-Ruti.
Have you seen any of the photographs yourself?
Only 2 or 3.
Do you believe them?
He says he can't imagine how you can take a picture like this. He is the kind of a guy who only believes what he sees himself.
Jakob Bertschinger works the farm with Meier.
Okay, he saw the light ball going away from here, from him, within that 45-degree angle.
45-degree angle?
That's right. And he can't tell how far it was very difficult to say. But then it stood still, that ball of light, and changed direction and came directly towards him with an unbelievable speed.
My name is Elsie Moser. I'm living in Niederglatt. I am a school teacher. The first time when I saw it, it was up here. I saw it with about 7 other people.
Were you frightened?
No, not at all. I was thinking, oh, well, okay, now I have seen one.
Guido Moosbrugger is not a neighbor. He lives about 2 hours away in Austria. He heard about the Meier experiences and came to see for himself.
Have you ever had any experience with Billy in connection with these things that are going on here?
Yes, I have seen a few demonstrations myself, especially at night, and was present at the landing site during one landing, and I saw other things. A lot of things happened in those 6 years.
You have seen things with your own eyes. Did you ever photograph anything?
I was allowed 2 times to photograph at night. As we sat inside the car, we saw all of a sudden to the north, above the meadow, out of nowhere, a fire-red disc, about as large as a headlight.
And then what happened?
And then it suddenly disappeared. Then there was a short pause, after which, at the same place again, appeared all of a sudden a silvery white ball. Then there was another pause, and then the same ball appeared again. It flew toward us, got larger and larger, then shrunk, collapsed, and then, like magic, it was gone. And best of all, it looked like a shower of sparks.
In all, over 30 other witnesses corroborate Meiers' testimony. The contacts continue at a furious pace, sometimes 2 or 3 a week. Meier claims to have had over 130 meetings. He has taken hundreds of photographs and has over 3,000 pages of notes.
For a long time, we've had an urge to contact someone who sincerely wants to be helpful in our mission. Here and there, we open such contacts with inhabitants of different worlds, but only when they have developed enough to become rational, thinking beings. Then we prepare them for the thought that they are not the only rational, thinking beings in the universe.
Britt questions Calliope, Meier's wife, whose nickname is Poppy.
Poppy, how long have you and Billy been married?
Now, 60 years.
And you were married in Greece?
Yes.
Uh-huh. What did you think when Billy first told you about these experiences?
Her English shaky, Poppy reverts to German.
Ja. Ein bisschen schwierig am Anfang gewesen. It was difficult at the beginning. Weil
because she never knows anything about this case.
Oh, she didn't know?
No.
When did she find out?
She says Billy takes a long time that her tell her something from the UFO.
And then how did you feel about it?
Unruhig einerseits, weil
and she was thinking why this happened all to me. Billy shows her every time the picture that he takes, and so she was knowing about from the picture from the UFO. But she was very critical about this case and asked him some questions about all this case, and it was very difficult for Bobby.
Were there times when you had just had it up to here and you couldn't?
She never was thinking to leaving this whole case, but she was crying and fighting against Billy and against the whole case.
At one point, Poppy admits, she was so fed up she burned half the photographs.
Today the feeling is other because she knows very well about the whole case and things about the Pleiadians, and this is very important for her.
Listen here.
Wow, you recorded that here?
My wife recorded this one here, and in the meantime I've been there down where he's standing Lee with the other recorder.
You had another recorder down
Yes.
there. How high was the ship above you?
About 60 meters.
60 meters. How far would you estimate it is from here down there today?
I think some 300 meters.
The sounds bear no resemblance to anything Stevens has heard before. Meier gives him both tapes for analysis. Overwhelmed by the evidence they have gathered, the team meets to plan the next stage of the investigation.
We're getting it all.
We'll leave tonight? Yeah. Okay, on Meier. I think Meier is a very sincere and honest type person. What do you think, Steve?
Has anything changed since you were here?
The man seems to be the same, but there's some things changing around him. He's better off. He's got more people around him. More things are happening, but he still is basically sincere.
What about the psychological aspects to the man?
Do you think it's possible that he's a little schizoid? I mean, it's difficult to tell if what he's saying the Pleiadians are telling him is actually coming from them or coming from him.
Well, how do you determine that?
Well, we can never prove
Too many
that
other people
aspect
involved.
of the case.
Others have seen the same thing. There's a terrific cross-section of people here. You've got a school teacher, you've got a commercial pilot, you've got a businessman, you've got a CPA. They're as good as any average cross-section of society we've got. And they all tested him themselves to their own satisfaction before they ever got this far.
Well, I think we ought to go back and throw the book at this one. Everything we can, top technology we can get involved. I think we ought to let the chips fall where we may and just see what we find.
We're going to run down and say goodbye to Meyer, and we'll tell him goodbye for you.
Give him my best.
Okay.
I'll see you later.
They've done what they can here. Meyer has turned over all his material, but he has one more surprise in store.
So we want to thank you for all your time and trouble.
Oh, yeah. Okay, just a moment, wait.
Okay.
I have here something. Here.
What's this?
Metal samples.
Metal samples?
Yeah.
Where did you get these?
I got it from Meiers, and she brought them from Era.
Are they extraterrestrial?
Metal samples. The kind of hard evidence Stevens had hoped for.
We got the Vogel tape in.
Great.
Back in Phoenix, the investigators begin to sort out the massive material Meyer gave them. There are hundreds of photographs, the 8mm films, sound tapes of the beam ships and the fragments of metal. They know they will have to call in scientists from a variety of fields to help assess the evidence. The task appears monumental.
Thanks, hon.
Tom, what about you?
Yeah, I'll have one too.
Okay.
They decide to check the photos first. If these are fake, the rest doesn't matter.
Here we have our image. The ground is below. We'll place this on the platen, emulsion side up, in order to focus on the emulsion.
The first step involves translating the photographic image into digital information, the language computers can read.
We can start this machine from the point which it is at now and scan 500 lines, 500 points per line, at a very small aperture, and watch the result of this scan being placed, digital information, keep in mind, onto a display. All right, over here on our display, we can observe what the densitometer is doing.
This microdensitometer is the same one used to help analyze the photos beamed back from space by the U.S. Pioneer mission.
And tell it that we want to go 5 microns between each pixel. It will be digitizing a ½ centimeter square, scanning the first lines.
The digital information will be sent on for an analysis that will take weeks to complete. Meanwhile, Welch and the elders decide to learn what they can of the history of UFO experiences.
But can you give us some more background on this phenomenon? What is this all about?
Well, it's not a new thing, Lee. This thing's been going on for a long time.
How many sightings have there been?
One of the researchers calculated that there may be as many as 70,000 reports in a year, worldwide.
Is there anything these sightings have in common?
Okay, there are some common things, commonly reported. First of all, they're always accidental. UFO pictures, up to this point at least, are accidental. They happen once, and they're gone.
Is there anywhere that they show up more than other areas?
Here's some stuff here that began way back. These are documented cases. Some of these are even classics. Photographs. Here's one from Argentina. But this whole thing is full of them. This one is full of them. That's full of them. All of those are full of such cases.
In Stevens' files are over 3,500 photographs of UFOs, some from early in this century. Most were single sightings, some observed by several people at the same time. In Perry, Ohio, the whole town watched a UFO at twilight for 30 minutes. In Brazil, a Navy photographer took a series of photos of a UFO flying over his vessel. Observers at NASA have spotted UFOs at our space launches. Tianjin, China,
Woonsocket, Rhode Island, Norway, Corsica, Japan, New Jersey. These are among the sightings that are reported. No one can guess how many go unreported.
They're pretty much all over the world. I don't think you could pick out a single place and say that there are more UFO sightings there than any other place. It's a worldwide phenomena, and primitives as well as advanced societies all view them and they see the same things.
What's the public's reaction been to all of this?
Well, there was a poll made about 3 years ago, I think, where they asked the question, I think the question was, how many people believe that UFOs exist? And this has been a progressive thing. It's been growing. And the last one showed something like 65% of the American population believes that UFOs exist.
Why don't they contact our national leaders and land someplace like on the White House lawn?
I'm not sure that national leaders haven't been contacted. There is some indication that various world leaders, even church leaders, have been contacted.
Mary, do you have that file that we had on spectrographic analysis that we did?
Oh, yeah, Tom, it's
As
right
the
here.
investigation continues, results from the testing begin to come in to the Intercept office in Phoenix.
Hey, Lee.
Hey, Tom, what's up?
Just got this back. We sent this photograph over to Neil Davies. Just got his report.
Neil Davis.
Physicist, aerospace industry subcontractor.
Right, okay, got it.
Examined the photograph with microdensitometer. Also, these you're seeing here are the black and white color separations that he did, and let's see what the results were here. Examination of these plots did not reveal any details which would cast doubt upon the authenticity of the photograph. And there's more. Color copy names, color separation. Nothing was found to indicate a hoax. And his conclusion is even more interesting. Let's see, black specks. Nothing was found in the examination of this print which could cause me to believe that the object in the photo is anything other than a large object photographed a distance from the camera.
Meier reported 6 different configurations of Pleiadian beam ships. Davis analyzed what the investigators designated as Variation 2. Variation 3 now goes to computer analyst Jim Dilatoso.
This is the new picture that we digitized last week using the microdensitometer. We transferred it over to floppy disk here. Let's look at the first map in low-pass filtering.
Why these particular colors on the screen? What are we seeing?
I mapped it in such a way that the real colors are not what we're seeing, but one shade of a color that's really similar to another one, like 2 shades of red, are in high contrast so that we can really see the difference.
I see. Have you found any anomalies yet, of any kind? Anything
I find strange things, but nothing that would tell me that someone's tampered with the pictures.
I see. Nothing indicating a hoax method or indicating superimposition or anything like that?
Nothing that I can find.
Have you been working on the grain at all yet?
Yeah, I have. What we're seeing here is that the film grain holds up the way that it should. In the pixel distortion test, it appears to me and to the computer that this object was photographed in the same original piece of film at the same time that the background was photographed. In other words, no overlay. I would say these pictures are genuine.
Extrapolating from Meier's accounts, Dilatoso programs the computer to duplicate the lights Meier observed on the craft. At the moment, he has no explanation for their apparent rotation.
Mary, any calls?
Yes, Steve called. He's at home, and you're to call CRQ.
CRQ. Okay. Call Steve. Tell him I'll get back to him in about an hour. I'll take care of this now.
Okay.
Hey, Lee, look what I got here.
Stevens has more news.
We got a report back from Shellman. Sound analysis.
He had sent the sound tapes Meier took of the craft to Robin Shellman, specialist in sound identification.
Things. He found some things we didn't hear on there.
Such as?
Well, he picked up, besides the basic sound, he picked up a small dog barking. Of course, we could hear him. He picked up a European police siren. We never heard that. He picked up a crow cawing.
Wait a minute. How in the hell does he pick all this stuff up? How does he determine the sound?
They've got a sound bank back there that they match sounds in. They can identify known sounds.
Okay, on this sound bank of his, anything there to match it?
He said he can't match the basic sound. He can match all of the other sounds on the tape, but he can't match the sound of the object itself, the emitted sound. Now look at this. He's concluded up to this point that the machine must have been built for a specialized application. Recognizing the sounds from such a machine may be difficult. Also,
later, Shellman will theorize from the sounds what those specialized applications might be.
About 4 hertz.
Picked an area here that,
Next, Stevens takes the metal fragments to be examined under the electronic spectrometer to determine their
typical
components.
looking area in the sample.
Preliminary examination of the metal has been done in Switzerland.
And we've got little marker bars here that we can line up on each peak as they come up. This one indicates we have silver there. Over here, let's see. We've got some copper, small amount of copper. That looks like about all that's in here at the moment.
The big band here is silver, though.
The big one is silver.
Later analysis of other fragments also reveals small amounts of thulium, a rare earth element that is difficult and costly to extract here.
This is one of the...
Because of the unusual nature of the findings, the fragments are given to chemist Marcel Vogel, an expert in crystalline structures and inventor of many substances used in computer components.
The first specimen I looked at is a metal specimen, which I classified as F1. This is the appearance that it looked at, rather golden colored on one side, silvery colored here. We find that, in truth, it is silver and a small amount of copper. We look at it here, this same area here, under polarized light. What is unusual of this small specimen is both highly crystalline nature, and suddenly we come to a metal section as we see here, and it showed a combination of metals that I've not encountered in any normal bit of metallurgy, both crystalline deposits and metal. Now, we, with any technology that I know of, could not achieve this on this Earth plane. I could not explain the type of material that I have and its discreteness by any known combination of materials. I could not put it together myself as a scientist. It's also a challenge because I showed it to one of my friends who was a metallurgist, and he shook his head. He said, I don't see how it can be put together. And we find that in this area there is evidence of machining, that there are striations which look like the sample has been worked mechanically. It doesn't look like anything that we've made here. At this moment, I would feel very much inclined to accept what was given to me as being true.
Always security conscious, the investigators hold key discussions outdoors to prevent eavesdropping. As the work piles up, they meet to assess progress and problems.
And that is, we've got a company back here and an intercept clientele, a pretty heavy clientele. What are they going to be thinking about these hard-nosed investigators running around chasing flying saucers?
Tom, it's an investigation, and it's a good investigation.
No matter whether you're doing a murder one investigation or industrial espionage, you still have the basic criteria that you follow, investigative procedures. And I think if we maintain those type of procedures, I think we can control the situation.
There's one thing that we haven't thought about. Eventually, somebody is going to come to us and say, have you ever tested these people? Have you ever tried to find out if they're lying? Have you used psychological stress evaluation? Have you used lie detection?
Will Billy go for that?
Oh, sure. I think Billy will go for it. He's been open with us all the way through. I don't think he'll stop at this point. Well, Steve, we've got another problem. We've put a lot of time and effort into this case already. We don't know when it's going to terminate.
Well, I want you along. I want to do a real investigation on this, and I want real investigators.
Well, what do you guys think?
I think we should go for it.
Okay, let's hope he's for real.
Look, physicists say they're all hoaxes. I've been at this for 20 years. If this is a hoax, there are no real cases.
The decision made, the team presses on.
Computer analyst Jim Delatoso has some new findings to show Welsh.
Let's go back and look at this picture again and get some information about the edges. I've discovered this interesting program for measuring the edges of things and comparing it to all the other edges in the pictures.
Based on the relationship of those edges?
The width of the edges and the properties in the edges. So we're stretching the data in the edges so we can count how many pixels wide it is. And it's very interesting what happens when you stretch them out, because it becomes very clear. Pixels, these little squares, like building blocks, and pretty easy to count. 6, 7. So this one ranges from 5 to 7 pixels wide, this edge. So we have our range here is from 6 to 8. Now what this tells us in looking at all the edges on the object is, first of all, that it's not a flat piece of plywood hung in the air, or it's not a paste up that was done. It actually has shape to it. And in this case, a very wide range, which has to do with focus. Some of the object is more in focus than other parts of the object, which tells me right off at that point that we're dealing with something of size to it.
With all the data they have amassed, the investigators have also come up with a lot of new questions. While they debate the necessity for another trip to Switzerland, a sudden crisis jolts them into a decision. There has been a phone call from Meier.
Halfway between Phoenix, where the intercept offices are located, and Tucson, where Stevens lives, a spire of rock rises out of the desert floor. Part of the rim of a long-extinct volcano, Picacho Peak is noted locally as the site where the last battle of the Civil War was fought. It is here that Lee Elders and Stevens meet when necessary, again, far from curious ears. This time, Elders brings a disturbing message, one that will add a new urgency to their work.
Hey, Lee, what's up?
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Good. What's going on?
Oh, God, we've got some problems.
Problems?
Yeah, I just talked to Billy today, and someone tried to kidnap his daughter.
What? Nina?
Nina, right.
God.
Billy got there in time. It was two men. They were in a car. They used a knife. They tried to force her into the car.
What about Nina? Is she all right?
She's fine. No problems. He fired at one of them, and they escaped. No, they haven't identified any of them yet. The police are working on it, as I understand it.
This happens to people. We've had it happen before. Other cases.
We're going to set up some security measures over there. Get a trail on these people.
I agree. We got to do something to take the energy out of this.
Yeah, we do. We're going to go back. You want to go?
When can we go?
Very soon. Hey, amigo, any phantoms up there?
Clean up here, but I want to check for third wire.
In Switzerland, the investigators start their security sweep with the phones.
No infinities? Everything looks all right. I tell you what, we better run a TDR up the hill, though, see if anything's hanging on the line.
What do you think about, what can we do with the people? We've got to do something.
There's two things we've got to do with them. One is we've got to get them to change the patterns, primarily Billy. Change their movements, change their patterns. Second thing we've got to do is we'll have to indoctrinate them on security. Probably set up a night watch situation of some kind.
Have enough weapons here where they carry weapon, flashlight, walkie-talkie?
Carry the whole thing. Patrol the grounds at night.
New additions to the farmyard since their last visit include a pair of peacocks whose raucous squawks make them as effective guards as the farm geese. There are new photos, too, and more film. In some, the beam ship hovers by a tree. Meier says they use trees as a kind of magnetic ground. Two or more ships in the same shot are almost unheard of in UFO photos. Meier has dozens of such pictures. Ships below a horizon line, such as a hill, are even rarer. In this photo, a Variation 2 ship controls a smaller unmanned drone ship, designated as Variation 5. In one demonstration, a Variation 3 ship exhibits a behavior Stevens has seen before.
We have often reported a nipping flight. We also have a wobbling flight, where it wobbles around a vertical axis.
The bobbing effect, Meier explains, is due to the ship riding the waves of the Earth's magnetic field, much as a boat on the ocean. When Meier is about to have a contact, he receives a cooling sensation on his forehead. The communication is telepathic. He prepares carefully. He is usually taken aboard the beam ships, but is unable to describe their interiors very well. There are no words, he says. Apparently, they are totally unfamiliar. The gun is a precaution, due to the threats on his life. The hat is a favorite, one he picked up on his travels in the Middle East. The tattoo he received during a brief stint as a sailor. He dresses well because he can be gone for hours and the weather in these mountains changes constantly. The walkie-talkie is a necessity because he is often left far from where he parked the bike and must call to be picked up. Meier feels the Pleiadians can communicate with him because his vibrations, the natural frequencies of his mind, are compatible with theirs.
Each human on Earth and each human over the whole universe has different vibrations. The vibrations of human is made out of his thinking, and the vibration themselves, they are something like magnetic electrical waves. And they are turning from human to human, from planet to planet, and over the whole space of the universe.
When entering your terrestrial state, we must make an adjustment in our vibrational patterns. It is similar to your adjusting the fine-tuning on your communications devices. In our case, it allows for the clear perception necessary for an exchange to take place.
You see, this around this area where I took several rolls of films. And this picture here, I took over there.
What size is that ship, Billy?
They told me it's 7 meters.
One of the most frequent spots for the contacts is Obersadeleg, a wide valley just 10 minutes from the farm at Schmidruti. Here, Meier took one of his most spectacular series of photographs.
Between both roads. And you can see here these lighty trees here. That's there up. And here on the left side, this hill. What's happened there behind? And the trees here down, it's that one there. Yeah.
Okay, then is this, where did this come in?
This picture I took there, if you go left side a little bit, here, if you go down, like this way here.
The beam ship stayed in the area for almost 20 minutes, flying slowly, often skimming the treetops, sometimes just hovering in place.
And the ship was a little behind them when I took this picture. And just now the trees are growing up in the last months. They are about 1.5 or 2 meter higher than at that time when I took this picture.
Then where did it move?
It left that place to the left side.
Something like
this. And then it was moving over there. You see here the small tree where it's happened there. And this one, that's that there.
Did it come across in front of the trees like this?
Yes, yes. And you can see there behind, left side of this one, these three, the higher one there.
Yeah.
And after this picture, I got the other one to that position there.
Further over?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I think we got another one in here now.
Yeah.
The one in between there, right?
I had to go back a little bit, there down, and from there I took the picture. That's the tree there down, what you can see.
The investigators are impressed by the vastness of the valley, the steep drops and the obvious difficulty of hanging models from anywhere to fake the pictures. The stunning clarity of the pictures and the accessibility of the site gives the investigators the chance to put the photos through another test.
Billy, we're using this to measure distance. It's the latest in infrared measuring devices. It's actually a small computer. It's made by Wild Heerbrugg here in Switzerland. And what we're trying to do here, Lee is up there with the reflector. And what this will do is send infrared light out and reflect out of that reflector back here. And this will rapidly tell us the distance and will also tell us how much higher or lower he is.
That's about where you're standing, right there.
That's right, the place, yes.
Okay, we'll go to on systems. Yes, we've got 1,262 feet, 0.85.
The precise measurements and photos are fed into the computer. The edges of known objects, such as the trees and the hills, are translated into pixels. Since these measurements are known, the number of pixels in the edge of the unknown object, the craft, gives its distance. The beam ship is determined to be just where Meier said it was. Simple triangulation then gives its size, 7 meters, or about 21 feet in diameter.
Billy, how many sightings?
By now, the investigators have made over a dozen trips to Switzerland. The case takes up more and more of their time and taxes their ingenuity. Each test leads to another, and every result is double and triple checked. To test the possibility that the Meier photographs were made using small-scale models suspended by transparent monofilament, the investigators bring with them a detailed model of a beam ship they identify as Variation 2. While Welsh flies the model on a hilltop above the farmhouse, Meier and Stevens snap several rolls of film. The camera Meier is using is the same one with which he took all the other pictures. The results are impressive. To the naked eye, some of the photos appear genuine.
Those photographs, they're interesting. They look pretty good. Pretty good.
I saw one difference in them, and that was that those models look white. They don't reflect that silver gleam like the pictures that Billy had.
You want to look at the focus in them.
Hey, hi guys. What's
Hey, Tom.
what are you talking about?
The pictures.
Oh, yeah. Some of them looked pretty bad, but some of them looked pretty good. I think we ought to test them.
Pictures of the model are not all that good. In the pictures where he focused on the model, the horizon is out of focus. Where he focused on the horizon, the model is out.
Well, not all of them, Steve. I mean, some of these are very, very good. We should put them in there for comparative testing under computer analysis. We've got to have that comparison. Frankly, this could be a scam.
So when we look at models, there's a variety of things that are different than when we look at photographs of these objects. Load in some colors first. That object right there is solid. It's one solid color. There's very little contour in it compared to other objects that are in the photograph, like the trees and things that we have color mapped in the background to be high contrast colors. And I've blown them up so we can look at the edges as pixels. So we're going from the brown object to the horizon. It takes 2 pixels. I mean, you can count it with your finger. You don't even need a computer.
Why is that important? What does it mean?
There's no contour to the object. Remember when we looked at the other photographs that were taken by Meier, the width of the edges ranged from 4 to 9. Point of the story. This is a small model. It's easy to tell small models.
Well, we tested that fighter sequence, and that came out pretty good. We didn't find any strings in there.
And when we got through blowing it up in the computer, we had the outline of the Mirage fighter, everything.
The incident occurred at Schmarbühl. Meier claims the jet made 22 passes at the beam ship. Computer analysis using the information from a known object, the Mirage fighter, shows again that the beam ship is the size and distance Meier claims.
What'd you find out from the base? You had some investigation going in
They're
that
pretty
area.
tight here on military security, but they won't let us talk to the pilot. We did find somebody who claimed that he found a mechanic who worked in that squadron at that time, and there was an exercise going on, and an airplane did come back with the electrical system melted out. The fire control system had to change a lot of black boxes, get it operational again.
What about Meier? What are we going to do with him?
I think we ought to put it to him, you know. Let's go for the man, find out if he's telling the truth, and put the full court press on him.
How do they contact you, Billy? How do you know to go out and meet him?
Yeah, that's a simple way. If I hear the order in my head to go to a contact, then I leave the house or just the place where I stay at the moment, and then they will guide me to the place where they pick up me.
Well, let me ask a question. Why you?
You see, and I can work together with them because I understand to close up my earth body vibrations.
See, Billy's explained to me before that they perceive in Earth humanity all the vibrations of lust, envy, greed, avarice, all of the things that make us dense, and it gives us a heavy vibration that they react to as a bad smell. In fact, he's even mentioned that they call it the auric stench of Earth humanity, and it's discomforting to them. It gives them problems, it makes them sick. To stay in their presence
When he
long.
closes up his vibrations, are we talking about an altered state of some sort, like alpha, beta, or theta, as far as the consciousness is?
In a way, it's like meditation. He rids himself of all of the unpleasant aspects of Earth life.
But Billy,
the vibration of the Earth.
11 o'clock, there was a big, round-shaped, dark object, about 12 to 15 meters wide. It stood there for 5-6 seconds, and it then, wow, went away.
As the UFO disappears, its Dornier begins to vibrate violently. Suddenly, the magnetic compass spins wildly out of control. And from an altitude of 2,000 feet, the plane slips into a dramatic nosedive.
The plane's engine was still working, but it just couldn't get hold of the plane. It was desperate, in panic, trying to get hold of the plane.
As the ground approaches, Rodriguez struggles to regain control of the aircraft. He opens the throttle, a life or death attempt to level the plane. Just above the dam, he manages to stabilize the Dornier. Francisco Correa has come to the Castelo de Bo Dam, where two witnesses observed the dramatic nosedive.
There were two shepherds here who saw the airplane and saw it nosedive. And they saw it go below this hill over here, and then they saw it, bah! When the pilot turned off his engine and started to pull it on again, it made bah! And they saw it, then the plane going just above, nice and easy.
On landing, the pilot undergoes a full medical examination. Although shaken, he's in good physical shape and immediately reports the UFO sighting to senior officers.
Pilots are often reluctant to come forward and speak about UFO sightings. They fear that they'll be ridiculed, they fear that there might be adverse consequences in terms of their career.
But the Portuguese Air Force take the report seriously and launch a thorough investigation into the incident. 35 years on from the UFO sighting, historian Joachim Fernandez has gained access to the military files.
Well, this is Francisco Rodriguez' report from the Crystal Bolt case. The letter from Air Force, as you can see here. The summary of his own case, Rodriguez' case. And a report from pilot. Report from a sighting of an identified flying object.
Rodriguez describes the object as being up to 15 meters wide, 3 meters wider than his Dornier.
And also the sketch from the object that emerged from the clouds and the encounter next to 6-7 meters from the plane. It was a scary experience.
The first mystery. Why did this large object flying at high altitude fail to appear on radar? Chris Morshead was a radar engineer with the Royal Navy for 30 years and has full faith in the technology.
When it comes to reporting objects, radar is probably far more accurate than the pilot. At high levels, it would be extremely unusual for something that physically appeared in front of a pilot not to actually be picked up on a radar.
At an altitude of 2,000 feet, the UFO should have been detected. So the possibility remains that what the pilot saw was not a solid object at all.
Quite often you do get atmospheric situations where tricks can be played on the eye, and it very much depends on the pilot, the lighting conditions, the weather conditions around him as to what he actually sees. And it can be quite easy to make mistakes.
Since the 1950s, many UFO sightings by pilots have often been explained by a curious atmospheric phenomenon.
You can actually get mirage effects due to temperature inversions, stuff like that, which can actually sort of fool the eye into thinking that there's something there which actually isn't there.
Well, a mirage is essentially created by different layers in the atmosphere that have a different temperature, i.e. the air has different densities. And it's a bit like putting, say, a spoon into a glass of water. You see that the metal in the spoon is bent. The same happens with light passing through the atmosphere with layers of different density. So objects in the distance on the horizon can sometimes appear distorted, they can appear closer to you or further away.
But a mirage does not explain the most puzzling question of all. Why did the Dornier, an aircraft renowned for its handling, nosedive so unexpectedly whilst the engine remained operational? Professor Raul Berengel explains the dynamics of flight.
You have a low pressure above the wing and underneath the wing a high pressure.
A wing is designed so the air moves faster over the top surface than it does over the bottom. The slow-moving air beneath the wing has a higher pressure, which gives the aircraft lift.
If this phenomena goes at very high speed, aside from the plane, what happens? You just lost your lift. Then the plane plunges down.
A jet passing at high speed could have sent the Dornier into a nosedive. But it doesn't explain why the magnetic compass spun wildly out of control.
Well, in order to spin a compass, at that distance will be needed a force, a magnetic field generated by this object that goes around the plane. And a normal plane or a jet do not have such an amount of magnetic field.
Whatever the object was, remains a mystery.
That's an object that flies, and I don't know what it is, so it's a UFO.
But something else from that day adds an intriguing twist to the story. As Rodriguez slips into his nosedive, workers at the Castello de Bo Dam are dealing with an emergency of their own.
At the same time, pilot Rodriguez was experiencing his falling to the ground with his airplane. This hydroelectric dam was experiencing a huge, unexplainable drop of energy.
Power at the dam is restored. But the question remains whether these two strange incidents are connected, adding another layer of mystery to a puzzle that may never be completely solved.
The situation regarding UFOs is quite interesting. As an engineer myself, I'm a great skeptic. I always believe that there must be some rational explanation. Occasionally, though, there are those situations when you just can't explain the problem, the phenomena that you've seen. Whether or not that's spaceships coming from another world, who knows? Personally, I find it hard to believe that it is. I think it's probably just a natural phenomena we haven't identified.
Dr. Greer's going to be right on. Let's get him on the show, Dr. J.
That's right, and we are bringing him on right now. Let's get Dr. Greer on. We're actually calling him live.
That's
air.
right. I like this live real-time action.
Dr. Stephen Greer. Dr. Greer, welcome to the show. Third Phase of Moon Radio.
Welcome to the show, Dr. Greer. This is Blake Cousins, and it's always good to have you back on Third Phase Moon. The viewers are fascinated by your knowledge, the Atacama alien, this contact in the desert. We're almost up to giving $5,000 of free tickets to the show, thanks to you, and everybody's excited to show up at the Joshua Tree. I know last year's event was quite incredible. There was a person right here in Hawaii named Reynolds Kamaka Vizioli. He's a kahuna. He claims he has contact with the star family, and he predicted that night there'd be a major triangle formation that was going to show up over the Joshua Tree. And we put it out on Third Phase, and people claim that it really did show up the night you were there. Did you witness the triangle UFO, Dr. Greer?
Yeah, we did. And in fact, it's interesting. We did a similar thing in Arizona a few years earlier, and a very beautiful tetrahedral craft partially materialized. We got a photograph of it. I believe it's on our website, SiriusDisclosure.com, under the heading. If you go to, there's ET evidence, and then there's also CE5. But we have, a number of images. I'm pretty sure that one is up there. Certainly, it's in our collection. And what happened is that there was a couple hundred people out under the stars on this roof kind of terrace, and this same object, which is very, in two dimensions, it would look like a triangle, but you could actually see that it was turned, so you could see that it was a tetrahedron, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, a tetrahedron is 4 triangles. It's an equilateral triangle on each of 3 sides, and they make a triangular base. But, of course, if you don't have an up and down coordinate, it's just basically 4 triangular sides. And these shaped craft have been seen, of course, for, I think, millennia. But we have had that happen, and sometimes they will be fully in this dimension, invisible. Sometimes they'll only be visible with a good night scope, and other times you'll only see part of it. You'll see an edge of it. In fact, when we were in, where were we? Also in Arizona a couple months ago, we had one of these appear, but what you saw of it was like 2 points of light that were moving together, and as it moved, the area around it blocked out the other stars. And so the only part of it that could be see with the naked eye were these 2 points of light, but very large, moving right over the sky above us. And we actually had some amazing video of this type of event happening during these contact events. And just so people know, a CE5 is when humans set up the conditions and invite contact, as opposed to something that's an accidental sighting or what have you. So it's sort of a diplomatic initiative where we are welcoming them here within the aspect of the oneness that's within us, which is consciousness and universality of mind, and that we think is the foundation for a future of universal peace. So in that sort of ethical and philosophical construct, we do these protocols, and it's amazing how often we have these sort of things seen.
Doctor, go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. J. The connection between man and alien is quite profound, especially when the kahuna was here in Hawaii. You were over there in California, the Joshua Tree, and the prediction was there. This connection, I think, is global, like you've been saying. But what about, see, we're working on a movie, Dr. Greer, about, it's called Hangar 52, and we're basing it on knowledge that we received from the people in regards to abductions, the sightings, free energy. Is there a government cover-up? Is there a dark force? And we're thinking that is the government controlled by a dark alien race?
No, absolutely not. However, I mean, of course, it makes for a great conspiracy theory, and I think that there's so much information that I think is disinformation out there on this subject. Now, I mean, are there aspects of the government that are incredibly dark? Yes, but why do they need to be controlled by an ET civilization? I mean, it's sort of I think it's the cop-out that people come up with not to take responsibility for our own failings and shortcomings as human beings. And, humans have been doing horrific things and dominating each other and engaging in warfare for way too long. And I just think it's a bridge too far to say that, oh, this is because there's some force. Now, you can define perhaps evil as this kind of behavior, and if you want to look at it that way, but to say that it's extraterrestrial is, I think, really, there's no basis for that at all. However, I think there are people, ironically, within the government programs who want people to believe that, because there's no way to, how do you prop up a multi-trillion-dollar military-industrial complex worldwide? And we're spending $1 trillion in the United States alone, if you all in with intelligence programs, homeland security, black budgets, the Pentagon. How do you keep that kind of spending afoot if you don't somehow concoct a bigger enemy than, say, terrorism? And Leon Panetta, who I put a briefing together for him when he was the CIA director for Obama, his first CIA director, and he at one point he said, look, we're spending over $100 billion a year chasing 70 Al Qaeda members in the desert of Pakistan and Afghanistan. And how do you grow this sort of juggernaut and justify this kind of expenditure, which is, of course, impoverishing the world tremendously, without having a new enemy? And this is what Carol Rosin and Werner von Braun, the guy who invented the rocket for Adolf Hitler, told Carol Rosin on his deathbed, that basically that they were absolutely concocting events and trying to brainwash the public that there would be a threat from outer space, even if it's only one or two species that we should then unite against, like the movie Independence Day, so we can, quote, kick alien butt, quoting Will Smith in that movie. And, I've spoken to too many people in the intelligence community, as well as Hollywood, who know that that's the agenda. But unfortunately, the UFO and New Age subculture have taken this stuff hook, line, and sinker, and in my sense, it's a tragedy of brainwashing.
I wanted to ask you also, with Hangar 52, we are trying to showcase the good side of humanity, and like you said, there is a dark and evil side of it as well, and there's an equal point in the middle, and I guess that's the way it's going to go on forever, but we are trying to put a good light on things. But we also want to delve into, in the movie Majestic 12. Dr. Greer, does it exist?
Well, it's had various names since the 40s, and, does that name still be the one, would that still be the one that's current? I seriously doubt it. Was there a group, really it's Majesty and Magic in some documents I have that are as recent as the 90s and the 2000s? Yes, it has existed, and basically it's a committee, not just American, that has maintained the secrecy and the counterintelligence programs. Now, the disinformation in counterintelligence programs is a big part of it. And the people that I've met with over the years, and I have over 550 people who worked in classified projects have dealt with this subject. And if you go to our website, we have several dozen that are actually on videotape talking. But for every one that's on our website, there are at least 10 that won't go onto an interview that I personally have met with. And what you find as you put this mosaic together is it's a whole complex picture you have to put together carefully, is that so much of the information on this subject has been, quote unquote, leaked by the intelligence community, but it's really pre-positioned disinformation that's designed to have a certain effect. One effect is to discredit the subject because it just is so ridiculous. The other, however, is actually to manipulate people with fear. And if you look at it, if you look at how demagogues, whether it's been religious leaders or political leaders or different kinds of entities over the last several thousand years of human history, is that one of the chief ways that humans have been able to be manipulated is to make them afraid of something that's, quote, other. So, for many, many years, it was one, race or one ethnic group. It's still today all over the world. Look at the Middle East, one religious group against another. It may be one ethnic group. If you go to Africa, there are tribal groups. And, Rwanda, you had the Tutsis and the Hutus. That, some like 800,000 people were butchered, a decade or two ago. And what you see with that is that there's a tendency for people to hate and be afraid of anything that's really different from them. And even if it's not very different. I mean, for years in Ireland, you had Protestants and Catholics. Okay, here, they're all Christian, they're white, they're living on this little island, and they're blowing each other up like there's no tomorrow. So the problem with that is that people who are trying to get a lot of centralized power know that they can do that if they can set the populace against each other and play them off each other. And, there was an amazing book written some years ago about how in New Zealand, the colonialists turned one peaceful native tribe against another so that they would enter into warfare, so that they would be weakened, so the colonialists could then dominate the entire area. And that kind of Machiavellian, very deceptive action is really what goes on. What's unfortunate is that the UFO subculture has become the chief vector or vehicle, you might look at it, for a lot of this terrifying information to come out, so that there'll be people in a camp of, there are good ones and there are bad ones and we're going to choose sides, and it's Star Wars all over again. I mean, this is like, a wet dream, I hate to say that, for the intelligence community to have people, brainwashed this way. And what I think that, when I met years ago, I got a document. It's in the film very briefly, Sirius, which you can see at our website, SIRIUS is the name of the film, and it came out last year as the biggest crowdfunded film in history. And what happened is, in this document, although they didn't spend much time on it in the movie, I would have liked to spend more time, is that it was from the Strategic Studies Institute, and it was talking, this is 1996, about creating a global abduction cult and to simulate human being abducted by aliens that would be done with very advanced aircraft and the stagecraft of creatures that look like aliens but aren't. And this document is in black and white, and it's an authentic document describing this program. Now, if that's all there was, I'd say, well, that's interesting. But then I've met with so many men and women who've been in these projects. I remember talking to a man who had been in a program back in the 70s. It was the late 60s and 70s where they were doing this. And he says, oh, yeah, back then we didn't have as good a stagecraft, as they called it, as we do now. But we were able to get these anti-gravity devices and have people appear to be aliens. And they would use various chemical substances, electromagnetic weapons, and they would engage in various types of abductions and also mutilation events back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and for livestock. And he says we were doing that because we knew that that would make its way into the tabloid media and the UFO subculture and begin to start this slowly snowballing effect of fearing everything alien. So that's sort of how the game is played. It's been played for thousands of years by despotic demagogues, whether they be religious figures or political figures. And there's always an agenda behind it. The agenda behind it is to manipulate people through fear. And I think that, you know, one of the big challenges of this era right now is for people to transcend and see through that. And it's like the old Who song, "We won't be fooled again." And I think, you know, unfortunately, I think a lot of people have been fooled. And the idea that these programs aren't very well funded and extremely sophisticated in the technologies they have, you know, it's just a wrong idea. They are well funded, albeit illegally, and they are very sophisticated in the technologies they have, and also in the ability they have to stage something and fool people. So I think you have to view so much of this with an eye of, it's sort of like, is it real or Memorex? You know, the old commercial years ago about the audio tapes. You know, is it actually an ET event, or is it something masquerading as ET or alien for the purpose of psychological warfare, like the Benowitz case that everyone probably knows about, the Air Force Office Special Investigations case back in the day in the near Sandia National Laboratories in Kirkland Air Force Base, where, you know, they really did stage not only a human abduction, but a whole series of things and documents to put people off the course. Now, what a lot of people don't know is what they were really trying to hide, aside from putting out the false information, is that there was a woman that Paul Benowitz knew that had actually seen near Kirkland and Sandia a man-made anti-gravity propulsion device that looks like a UFO. And in order to sort of brainwash her into thinking that was not ours but alien, they set up this whole series of things that Richard Doty and others were involved in. And I think that this is a real problem because, you know, you can't take things at face value, and when you do, you're going to find that you're just being played by some very sophisticated people who have a lot of experience manipulating mass markets and mass media and subcultures into a certain type